Good afternoon. This is the May 26th meeting of the Police Station Building Committee. As a preliminary matter, this is Patrick Pitney, Chair. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mo DiPaolo.
President.
Kristen Lott. Kristen, I know you're here. Yep. Kevin Anderson.
Present.
Keith Baldinger.
Present.
Justine Snyder. Joseph Morrow.
Present.
Hi, John. John Ambra.
Present.
Donna O'Connor.
Present.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Angela Snell. And Alex Martinez.
Present.
Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Police Station Building Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Police Station Building Committee is convening by Google Meet as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please be sure to press *6 to mute your device. The meeting will not feature public comment. Please wait until I open the item for public comment and press *6 to unmute your device. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And this meeting is called to order. And before we get to anything, we do have two new members of the committee. I'd like to welcome Donna O'Connor and John Ambra. And Donna, if you could just introduce yourself to the committee. I think most people know you, but just give us a little background.
Oh my. So I've been involved with the town since I was a teenager, is the easiest way to put it. I've been a selectman. I've been on the finance committee. I do the show Ask the Manager. I was on the Coolidge Building Committee. I'm a retired registered nurse, and part of my work in the last several years was that I was an infection control nurse, which required me to be participant on all of the building committees and all of the construction projects in the hospitals that I covered. That's enough, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Donna. Welcome. Certainly an asset to the committee. And
Thank you.
John Ambra, welcome to the
Yes,
committee.
I've been in the construction industry for 50 years. Had the great opportunity to come here back in '89 when our company was selected to build a digital equipment company at that time on South Street. We were able to stay here for 3 years and doing a couple of projects within the state, and one being the Shirley Prison at the time. And then we were transferred out of here to upstate New York to build a corporate headquarters for Corning Glass. We always wanted to come back to Shrewsbury because we felt this was a place that we wanted to come back to. Our son was born here, so we back in 1998, we were able to get back here, and we've sort of worked our way around the country, being remote here, remote there, and so forth. But I've had a lot of experience in the construction industry, great opportunities to build hospitals, buildings, office buildings, so forth and so on. Worked in the mines in Kentucky, and bridges, and highways, and so forth. I'm really happy that the Board of Selectmen selected me to be on this committee. I hope to add whatever I can as far as the building, so forth. But thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, thanks, John. Quite a diverse background, and I'm sure you'd be a great asset to the committee. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
So thank you all. That brings us to item number 2, approve the minutes of March 29, 2021. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mo.
I move we approve the minutes of the March 29th meeting.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of March 29, 2021. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mo?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Justine.
Yes.
Hi, Christine. I mean, Justine. Sorry about that. Joe,
Yes.
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
and myself, aye. So that's unanimous 9-0. It's nice to have a full committee again. Okay, that brings us to item 3. We have some bills and warrants to act on. We have Tecton Architects, $208,500. Construction Monitoring Services, $25,000. And Fontaine Brothers, $13,500. Any questions, comments, concerns around those? There being none. Everybody's in a hurry tonight. Do we have a motion?
Move we approve the invoices as presented.
Okay,
Second.
so we have a motion and a second to approve the invoices for Tecton Architects, Construction Monitoring Services, and Fontaine Brothers. When I call your name, please cast your vote. Mo?
Aye.
Kristen?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Keith?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Joe?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Donna?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody. And that brings us to item number 4. Hear reports, review, and act on the following matters. And we have a report from the owner's project manager. Neil?
Good afternoon, everyone. I just have a few things to report on. First item is we have completed the solicitation and the advertisement for the request for qualifications associated with the pre-qualification of the subtrade contractors. I know that's a mouthful. We received over 120 responses from respective contractors across 14 disciplines. And over the next 2 to 3 months, 2 months or so, we'll be completing the evaluation of those qualifications to determine which of those contractors will proceed to the public bidding phase of the Shrewsbury Police Station project. That is a requirement for all public projects in Massachusetts with an estimated construction value of over $10 million. So we certainly qualify in that. So we will be spearheading that process along with Keith and Kristen from the town, as well as Matt Salad and the team from Fontaine. So it'll be a group effort. Like I said, I think there were 120 or 122 proposals in total. And we'll be cranking through those over the next, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks, realistically. In addition to that work, we have advertised and solicited for both construction testing services, as well as for building and envelope commissioning services. We anticipate both of those proposals will be out over the next 2 weeks for pricing by prospective firms. And we should have proposals back in hand by mid-May and be prepared to make a recommendation to this committee the next time that we meet, presumably shortly before Memorial Day.
Very good. Thank you.
In addition, last item I have, and I'm not going to say much on it, over the last week or week and a half, we've met a couple times with Fontaine and their crew, as well as with Pete Timothy from AM Fogarty. They were conducting cost estimates based on the 75% DD documents. They were reconciled very favorably. And I will hold my comments at that. I don't want to take away Jeff or Brian's thunder on these. So with that, I will turn it back to the committee and certainly happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions out there for Neil? I just have a couple, Neil. On the sub-trade contracts, 120 responses. That sounds like a tremendous response. Is that typical for a project like this, or is this unusual?
It is certainly very positive in that we have got a very qualified and very wide field of contractors to choose from. We normally see anywhere between 75 to 100 responses on a project. This one at 30 million or so is certainly very attractive to the trades. So we're not all that surprised the number of returns was this high.
Okay, and just in very broad terms, how do you start to narrow that down? That's just a curiosity question.
There's a fairly prescriptive process that the state mandates. We evaluate the proposals based on certain set criteria, and there are, at the risk of going too deep, there are 3 different major criteria that we have to evaluate by, and each firm has to score a minimum number of points in each category in order to move forward. And in addition to that, financially, they have to have the bonding and security that's required in order to complete the scope of their work. So it's really a look at their organizational process, the team they're presenting, as well as their financial documents and their experience on past projects within the Commonwealth.
Thanks, Neil.
Very welcome.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, Joe Morrow.
Sure, Joe, go ahead.
Joe, you just muted yourself.
Yep, I did. Just a quick question, Neil. Was there any sub bids that did not have any filings, any of the subcontractors that didn't have any filings, or a minimum amount where you would have to look to rebid that?
So we received the minimum amount in all sub-trade categories with the exception of elevators, which anybody that's done more than one of these in Massachusetts, that is not a surprise. We will very likely re-advertise for the elevator sub-trade, and we hope to get a minimum of 3 in every category, and I believe we have at least 3 in all of the other categories.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, the elevator was the one I was going to bring up, but you caught that
There
one.
you go.
Thanks, Joe. Anything else from anybody out there? No? Okay, we can move on to our report from the architect, who is taking that one this afternoon. Jeff? You're up.
Sorry about that. The other phone was ringing while I didn't want to unmute. Tyler has the presentation, if he can be permitted to share his screen.
Jeff, we're getting an echo from you.
I hear that. I'm not sure why. Are we still echoing?
No.
Okay, good.
Jeff, it might actually be for me because I can hear you from where I am. So I guess I'll make sure I'm muted when you're talking and vice versa.
Thank you, Tyler. All right, can we go to the beginning there, Tyler? All right, so let's start with that first slide of our update. All right, quick agenda. We're going to talk about the project development, where we're at today, and also looking ahead for the future. We are going to review the estimates prepared by Fontaine and A.M. Fogarty. We do have an additional service that we want to talk about for actual certification of the LEED as opposed to just design to the standard. And an update on soil testing, hazmat, and test pits that have been conducted. And then finally, we'll do a look ahead at what's coming next. So here's the progress update. We have issued the 100% design development documents. So we're going to be moving into the construction document phase. Moving forward, we'll be looking at the 60% construction document phase on May 17th, and then it sort of follows mid-month after that with the 90% construction documents in June 16th and the 100% construction documents in July on the 17th. The 60% package may be used as our early site package. We've had some discussions with Fontaine, and I'm certain that they can share a little bit more about that, about the possibility of pre-ordering some steel components because of extensive lead times that we're hearing about in the marketplace right now. So that may begin as early as that 60% construction document time. And then anything beyond that from concrete and steel package will start to get bid out based on the 90% construction documents. And then finally, at the July one, that's when the rest of the filed sub-bid trays will be bid. So just a quick look back. This is from the original study that we did. This is the construction budget. This was our hard cost construction budget with construction contingency included of about $30,276,000 and change. And then, of course, we had a soft cost budget on the next page, Tyler, which includes all of the design fees and all of the other expenses that go into developing a project like this. That totaled $6,688,000. So that's the look back. Now let's take a look at where we're at. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more slide. The $39,964,000 was the total for the project of hard and soft costs, and then the additional $5 million went in to create our $41,964,000 total project with communications equipment included. All right, now we'll try that one more slide. There we go. So this is where we're at. The first column is, of course, all of our headings, but if you go to the one that says budget, that's basically drawn from the budget that we just reviewed. And you can see down where it says subtotal, we were anticipating a $30,276,271 project, including that construction contingency. Our estimator, AM Fogarty, put together their estimate, and they came in with a 5% construction contingency, and I'll tell you about that in just a second, at $29,849,000. And then Fontaine Brothers, independently doing their estimate, came up with $30,018,806. The reason that we are reducing from a 10% construction contingency to a 5% is because with the CM, there's a CM contingency as well. You can see that in the middle section there, the 497 on Fogarty's and 571,000 on Fontaine's. So when we blend those two estimates together after a reconciliation meeting, we're looking at an average design development estimate of $29,934,000, which puts us a little bit under budget, which is good news. I do want to share with the committee that there was a good deal of discussion during the reconciliation process about the volatility of the market. We are seeing some significant delays in some materials. Earlier in the process, we actually opted to go for solid structural steel instead of bar joist because of a word that we could be looking at up to a year's lead time for acquiring bar joist. And Fontaine Brothers is doing a good job of keeping us up to date on what they're seeing in the marketplace, which has been very helpful. And I think some of the discussion, the discrepancy that you'll see, the differences between AM Fogarty's budget and Fontaine's budget with some late breaking news that Fontaine was privy to about some significant increases in the cost of steel since the time that A.M. Fogarty prepared their estimate. So we are under budget right now, but I think we all need to keep aware of what's happening in the marketplace. We don't know if this is going to be a blip or if this is going to be a reset of construction costs at a higher level. There are 2 add alternates that we looked at as part of this estimating process as well. The first one is for a outdoor air CO2 monitoring and control, and you can see that A.M. Fogarty priced that at $285,000. Fontaine estimated that at $267,000. I think that's something that we could opt to include or opt to continue carrying as an alternate through bid day. Likewise, a alternate for doing a pre-action fire protection system for the evidence storage. Basically, that gives you an alarm if a sprinkler head is triggered so that you charge the pipes, but that gives you a delay so that you can stop the release of water should it be a false alarm. And for that system, again, you can see A.M. Fogarty's estimate was $45,000. Fontaine's estimate was $41,000. So, we do have the room within our blended estimate to carry those. But I think that's something we may want to continue carrying as an alternate as we go through the bid process. Tyler, can I have the next slide, please? All right, so a couple key takeaways here from the estimate process. The big one there is we're on budget. The next one is, should we do a VE process? And I think the answer is it would be very smart of us to think about VE all the way, the rest of the way through construction document. We are a little bit under the budget. I like breathing room, and I'm sure the community would love to have breathing room as well. So we will be working with Fontaine Brothers to identify things in our documents where they see opportunities for more efficiency, for value added, as well as reduced cost sort of approaches to items. So that we'll be talking about that as we move forward. I think because of the instability, one other important thing is we'll start identifying some additional alternates just so that we have some options on bid day if we need to do a little bit of fine tuning to make sure that we bring this in a positive budget situation. I think a few alternates is always a good safeguard to make sure that we have one last chance to control the construction costs and protect the budget. Next slide. We did put together a proposal which includes costs from Tecton Architects as well as CES, our mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, and Fuss & O'Neill, our site engineers. And the reason for this is we had originally been designing to a LEED Silver certifiable equivalent. Now the community has the opportunity to actually get the LEED certification. We are tracking well on the LEED spreadsheet for that, but that involves a lot of filings, a lot of record keeping. It includes some enhanced energy modeling. We already did have energy modeling in our proposal, but the enhanced energy modeling and the coordination with USGBC is a requirement to get that certification. And then, of course, there's all the documentation follow-up that we'll be working with Fontaine Brothers as we go through this process to make sure that every credit is counted at the end. So the cost of that additional service is $80,000, and I would be looking for authorization from the committee to proceed with that so that we can pursue the certification. And we can circle back on that, but for the moment, Tyler, give me one more slide here. All right, Tyler, I'm going to go on mute so that you lost the presentation there.
Sorry, I couldn't get to my unmute button without unsharing the screen. So hold on one moment. I'll bring the presentation back up. Sorry, for some reason it's not letting me share again.
While Tyler's figuring that out, does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Donna, I see your hand up.
Donna, you're on mute.
You're still on mute, Donna. Anybody else while Donna figures that out?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a question for Jeff.
Sure, go ahead, Joe.
Jeff, just on the adults, the pre-action system cabinet, how come that went as an alternate? Wouldn't there already be a pre-action cabinet and design for the communication server equipment room? And could that be included in the budget already to have the evidence room done?
Yes, yeah, we could do that. Absolutely.
I just think for that amount of money in a project this large, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to do an add-on for that.
It is a very modest ad alternate, so I tend to agree with you. I think in order to better protect our budget as we move forward, we should look for some larger alternates. So I agree with you. We should go ahead and just include that in the base bid.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I would agree. It seems like the adults are for the bigger items that are really wants, but aren't within the budget at this point. So that would be my opinion too.
Thanks, Joe. It's a good point. Jeff, I just have a quick question here. The contingency went from, it looks like it went from 10% to 5%. Given some of the supply chain estimates and some of the cost variabilities that we may be running into, how comfortable are you with the 5% contingency versus 10%?
I am, because of the amount of investigation that we're doing subsurface, and because also Fontaine Brothers will have their own CM contingency in as well. We've enjoyed a really good track record of doing well with contingency change orders on projects well below the 5% mark. So I think that still gives us some breathing room. And I do hope that we see some further cost saving ideas continue to come in as we go through the construction document phase, so that maybe we can be in a position where we could even pad that a little bit before that we go out to the final bid day.
Okay, and the cost escalation at 3.5%, do you see that changing at all? Is that a pretty stable number, do you think, or?
Well, it's a very short term. If that were 3.5% over an entire year, I would be less comfortable. But since we are going to be pooling bids in July, just a few months away, I think that's a pretty reasonable number. And as I said, Fontaine Brothers have done a great job of keeping us appraised of what they're seeing in the market and adjusting for that in their estimate and in our reconciliation process.
Okay, thank you. Donna, it looks like you're unmuted. You had a question?
Don't ask me to do it twice, but I'm unmuted. The fire protection was one of my questions, actually, for the evidence room. And also I was trying to understand the, was it CO2 detection?
Yes, that actually will help us secure additional lead points by using the CO2 monitoring. The system is able to modulate essentially the amount of fresh air that's supplied to the room, which enables us to be a little bit more fuel efficient in terms of the amount of air that we're heating and cooling. Basically, you know, you can, when we design a building, we talk about what is the expected occupancy of a room. But when you measure the CO2 output, that's basically the people exhaling, you get a much more exact relationship of the amount of heat load, the amount of people that are in that space. And so we're able to modulate the system to respond to that much more precisely.
So why would it be an alternate, not just an automatic?
Because it is normally only done, it's one of those extra control capabilities that it's not often done in everyday construction. It is not an uncommon one when we're doing LEED certifiable, where we're trying to get that additional energy efficiency credit.
So I thought I understood about the leads. The value of having that dollar-wise, is it related to insurance? Is it related to electrical usage?
So LEED is about, it's about sustainability, and it goes beyond just energy efficiency. It's about the construction process's impact on the overall environment. It has to do with sourcing products locally. It's about stormwater management. It's about preserving native species. It's about efficient energy control. It's about efficient water utilization. So there's a whole gamut of things that fall under that LEED certification. It is not, however, you don't get a discount on your insurance because of it. You may see some decreases in your energy utilization, your energy usage, because you are designing a more efficient facility.
Well, I don't want to hold you up, but I'm just trying to, I understand all that. What I'm trying to wrap my head around is that you would be doing those things in a construction project in this day and age anyhow, wouldn't you?
Not every building is designed to the LEED standard.
I guess I'm trying to measure the $80,000 for that, which I do believe it's important, but I'm trying to justify the $80,000 for that versus having CO2 detection. That's what I'm trying to find the balance. I think the air we breathe in real life has important value to us, I guess, compared to what we should be doing automatically, which is within the LEED certification, costing that kind of money. I'm just trying
So
to
Donna,
understand
I think
it.
I can help clarify a little bit as a committee member and as a town staff person who sat on the design meetings. We've looked all along this project to be a LEED certified project, and LEED is a bronze, silver, gold, and platinum basis based upon certain criteria and design and construction that has been met. And this committee has noted their desire, and especially from public input, that we should be designing a LEED building and that LEED silver makes sense. And I think that we understand from these numbers today, and we can flesh out a little bit further, that we can incorporate both options into the budget. But we do feel that moving forward, the LEED certification is an important value. Keith can probably weigh in of what Beal has been designed to with Fontaine's and the architects from the other architects' knowledge. I'm not sure if that helped answer your question or not.
Well, my question isn't the value of LEED certification. My question is the value compared to what you may not put in the project. I guess that's what I'm saying. But I appreciate the value of it, and I think I understand it somewhat. Just trying to be sure that fire detection and CO2 detection doesn't get underestimated in value along the way. I guess that's my point.
Okay. Keith, do you have anything that you'd like to add in regarding the,
Well, I'll just add that both the library and Beal are LEED Silver certified buildings. And I think I understand your question, Donna, but I think the reason, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason that the DOAS system was put in as an alternate was because we were concerned about having enough points to get the LEED certification. Is that correct, Jeff? And it was an alternate. It is a good system. We still will have some. I believe the system that we have will still have CO2 detection. This is just a better control of the fresh air that we put into the building.
Yes, it gives us the opportunity to once again manage the LEED points so that we have the ability to make sure that we achieve the minimum required points for silver. And I want to be clear that this is not about the air quality as much as it is about better monitoring for temperature control, so that you're delivering the right amount of heat and cooling based on the occupant load.
so I think maybe I'm going to try and summarize this. So it sounds like because it's an alternative, if we had enough LEED points to get certified without adding that enhanced CO2 monitor, we could go forward without doing that and not sacrifice our LEED certification?
That's correct. And if you opt to, if you have the money and you still want to do it, even if it adds more points than you need, it's still an option.
Okay. But if we have other cost overruns, we would have that money set aside for other uses then?
Yeah, then you get to make some choices about how you spend your money at that point.
Okay. Is that helpful, Donna?
Yep. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, very good. All right, I see our presentation is back up. Tyler, any other questions out there before we move on? Okay, go ahead, Tyler. Or Jeff, whoever's presenting.
All right, I don't see Tyler here. I'll start here. Just real quickly, we had conducted some geotechnical borings back in 2020, and we'd gotten an indication that our groundwater from those borings was between 4 and 18 feet, depending on where you were on the site. At the urging of town staff, we conducted additional test pits to look at that water table just in April of this year. And we have, we're at the spring thaw, and we saw a consistent water table at 4 feet. That has urged us to create a change. Well, it's kind of pushed our hand to create a change in our stormwater management plan. Previously, we had been hoping to do all underground detention. So now we've got to do some basins. So we're working through the implications of that in our site design. We're going to have to be locating some basins around the site to handle our stormwater runoff, not only from our new construction, but from the repaving of the town hall parking lot, that parking area between the police station and the town hall. So we're working with our civil engineers and our landscape architects right now to try to get the most positive outcome that we can with that design. Additionally, we did some soil hazmat testing. We do have a few locations that are, I think it's 2 out of 10 locations where we're slightly above the reportable levels to the Mass DEP. What that means to us is that we do have to do remove some material, take it off site, that will be dealing with a slightly increased disposal cost for that material. Currently, we are looking at creating a net fill site, so we don't anticipate taking a lot of material off the site. And certainly because of this recent adjustment to our stormwater, we may actually be bringing a little bit more fill and raising our level a little bit so that we can stay above that water table. And then the last item is the completion of the previous study. We had been delayed in getting our building hazmat investigations done. Those have been done. And of course, no big surprise that we did discover some asbestos, some lead paint, and some PCBs that will have to be disposed of during the demolition process of the existing station. Right now, it very much looks like that the budget that we carried is sufficient to cover all of those abatement costs during the demolition. So we were right on target in terms of the building hazmat. And Tyler, I think this is where I mute, right?
Sorry, can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I've been running into issues with presenting a full screen PowerPoint and trying to access my Google Meets at the same time. So apologize for the delay. All right, so this was the stormwater management plan, site plan that was developed for our 75% DD submission. This was based on the original geotechnical boring reports that suggested a larger range in the water table level from some areas of 4 feet all the way down to some areas of 18 feet below existing grade. And because of that information, we were originally showing some areas in blue where we were proposing some subsurface stormwater retention basins, and then the smaller areas in green where we were showing some above ground stormwater detention basins. However, with the new information from the new borings that were conducted this past month, it showed that the groundwater level was closer to 4 feet, and that was pretty consistent throughout the site. So that kind of got rid of our option of using any subsurface stormwater detention basins. So now we are having to look for opportunities in other locations to account for that added load, and it all has to be managed through above ground stormwater detention basin. So that's these areas in green. This was the first pass at a possible option for the stormwater management. This was presented last week during to the Conservation Commission. We obviously, it's not ideal to have all this stormwater retention that's right in front of the building. We are working with the civil engineer and landscape architect to try to find other locations to locate those, and maybe do multiple smaller retention basins throughout the site, and try to free up that space in front of the building, as well as looking at alternate grading to help with that as well. On the bright side, looking at continuing to develop the stormwater retention, it also gave us the opportunity to look into our landscape design a little bit further as it relates to the front entry of the building and the sunken plaza. This is the first concept that we've been working through. I've been in discussions with our landscape architect to help develop this further. But as you know, the sunken plaza is at -2 feet below our entry building grade level. So we are proposing to tier or step the landscape down from that 0 level all the way down to the -2 feet to create a more immersive and kind of an immersive sunken plaza that's guarded by these plantings and shrubs and things that help create a visual separation between that area and the prisoner release that's on the far right of this plan that exits from the building. That will be at grade. So it will be a physical and visual separation between that prisoner release pathway and the sunken plaza. And you can see where I've marked the different levels. +2 is at the entry, and each step is going down roughly 6 inches to +0.5, +1, plus 6 inches, and then down to the lowest level at the sunken plaza. We are also looking to incorporate some benches into these landscape tiers around the perimeter of the sunken plaza. Lastly, we are creating these two nodes at either corner of this elevation of the building. Both will be, it has an opportunity to add the 2 flagpoles we want, and a officer memorial on the node that is near the sunken plaza, just south of the sunken plaza there. So Jeff, I'll leave this back to you.
Yep. So here's, all right, you got to mute. Tyler.
All right, hold on a second.
I got you. There you go. All right, so what's next? Revised stormwater system design is the big one that we're pushing on right now. We've identified a lot of different possibilities so that we can spread those stormwater basins out so that we can maintain the groves of trees in the front of the site that we all intended originally. So we're spending a lot of time working with our civil and landscape architects to make that work. I spent some time earlier today talking with Tyler about a couple of possibilities. So we will be looking to see that revision here in the next week or so. And then, of course, as Tyler pointed out, we're working on the revised landscape design to try to finalize that as we head into our construction document work here. And as I stated earlier, we're going to be continuing to work with Fontaine Brothers to look for those opportunities of being more efficient in our detailing, with the intent of creating a little bit more buffer between the cap of our budget and our anticipated bid prices. And then along with that, we'll identify what we think are some possible alternates for the committee's consideration later on in the process. So again, a highlight of those benchmarks, middle of May, we'll be doing 60% CDs, middle of June, 90%, and then finally middle of July, we'll be ready for bid. So with that, Mr. Pitney, I will return it to you and be ready to answer any additional questions.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Any questions for Tyler or Jeff?
Pat?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One of them, it's relatively minor, but I must have been asleep in this part of the design phase, but why do we have a sunken plaza? Why is it there?
So what happens is because the training room tiers down, we end up stepping down to the front of that room. And so our exit from the training room, we require 2 separate exits. One goes to the lobby at the high end. The other goes out to that plaza at the low end. So we've already got to come out at the lower level. It just happens to be at the base of the stair where our break room is, just above the training room. So it was a real opportunity to create a little space, outdoor space for the staff as well, and also as breakout space for that training room. Because we are going to actually be bringing up the grade, the grade of the sunken plaza itself is actually pretty reasonably close to the existing grade. But it really is about getting that transition from that lower level, that 2-foot down exit out of the training room, and then back up to roadway grade.
So that the training room did end up staying as theater style, and it's 2 feet below the grade of the main floor?
It is a partial tiered floor. So we had a couple rows down on the lower level at flat, but we do 3 tiers, I believe, on the way down to that. Yes, 3 tiers.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I, not knowing, seeing the whole bigger site, is there a reason why the landscape architects didn't look to the left of the building and the left of the, or in front of the police parking lot for those retention basins instead of right in front of the building?
That is actually one of the areas that we have been talking with them about, getting those relocated and spread out. I think their gut reaction when they realized they had a higher water table was to put it at the low end of the site. But I think there's plenty of opportunities along the edge of that police parking lot. I agree with you on this.
It just seems like, I know it's important and we have to have it, but it just seems like to have those right in the front of the building is not going to be very aesthetically pleasing. I'm assuming there's got to be fences around those.
It's going to be a bioretention pond, so there'll be plantings in there that are appropriate for, you know, for absorbing the water, if you will. Typically, they're not fenced, but they are vegetated.
Okay.
I would like to see them further out myself.
Thank you.
Mo,
Just
this
one
is
last,
Kristen. We had a I just want to give the committee an
Go
update
ahead.
of what the design team talked about on Thursday. We definitely expressed our displeasure in having those large basins in the front of the police station building and at the front of the wooded area. And Fuss and O'Neill is going to go back, and it's probably going to take them a week and a half or so to redesign. There could be other options to the west of the new police station building and to the rear, and other subsurface options. So we have asked them to investigate all options on the table and bring it back to the building committee before it goes to a conservation commission meeting or a planning board meeting.
that would be a good idea, because that last one, I know it caught everybody by surprise. And, you know, I use the old Dunkin' Donuts scenario. You walk in and people say, "What are you doing?" And we don't know what they're talking about. So hopefully we're going to get some advance notice. Just one last thing on potential change orders. Are those going to come early enough in the process? I know we're moving quickly, that, you know, we'll have time to react to those proposals before we get the 100%, or what's the process on that?
I'm not sure I understand. Change orders usually come after the contract award.
I'm sorry. I meant add alternates.
Yes, we will bring all of those to you for review. We'll make suggestions, and if you're interested, then we put them on there. If you're not, then we don't. So that's absolutely something that will be presented to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
Well,
else?
if I could add, I'm sorry, Pat, if I could add one other thing regarding the alternates. I just want to make sure the committee understands the statute for bidding in Massachusetts requires that alternates are taken in the order that they're presented on the bid form. So the committee, not only should the committee keep in mind how they want to spend the money, but they need to understand the order in which they spend it is required to be defined, and it cannot be changed after the bid. In other words, you can't take alternates 1 and 3 without accepting alternate 2 as well. We'll talk about this again when the discussion comes up, but just want to plant the seed now as well. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so I've got just Jeff on the redesign of the plan for the basins. So it sounds like what you're saying, these are going to be like the rain gardens that were presented at the Conservation Committee meeting, or are they going to be just in a different place, or are they going to be different? You envision it.
My hope is that we're going to get them in a different place. Yeah. So there'll be that sort of rain garden. And I would like to see some wrapping around the police parking lot, and then a couple of the small ones that we originally had up at front, and then there's a couple other locations on the site we're looking at as well. Just smaller, more smaller basins.
So what does a rain garden do in terms of cost versus possibly tucking these basins out of the way where they'd be out of sight? Or is that not a possibility?
We have to watch the flow directions across the site in our location of these. So that's the big consideration. I think when we wrap some over there by the police parking lot, we'll be able to tuck a fair amount of that out of sight. I guess the one good news is generally surface stormwater retention is less expensive than subsurface stormwater retention. So we'll be certainly looking at that impact in the next estimate round.
Right. I guess one of my concerns is going to be if they're going to be rain gardens is upkeep and ongoing maintenance and what those costs look like.
I can get some information for you on that.
Okay. And my other concern around this is that the Conservation Commission continued our hearing to May 18th. Are we going to be ready for that? And will you have an opportunity to present that to the committee beforehand?
We will absolutely be presenting to the committee beforehand.
So before May 18th?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And Pat, if it's not ready by then, we'd advise them to continue to the next meeting so we can work on that internally as well.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Donna has her hand up. I'm not sure if she wants to say something or if it's up for.
I think that was up from before. Donna, you got anything else? You're muted.
How's that for quick?
No.
My hand is up.
You hit a button on the computer that's there. Now it's off.
Oh,
Now it's
it's
on.
reading. Okay, when it says lower hand.
Yeah, lower hand. Now you don't have a question. So before you had raised your hand.
Sorry,
Yes.
I'm the new kid.
That's okay. No worries. All right. That brings us to item 5 then, I guess, cost estimates for the project. It looks like we've kind of gone through that. Do we have anything to add?
So not everyone may have received their email before the meeting, but Neil, Matt Salad, and I met this afternoon to talk about where we currently stand in the budget, and to make it clear to the committee members of what is the budget for the police station versus what is the budget for the radio project, since the borrowing was all done at the same time for $42 million. So Neil prepared a sheet in a PDF form that I did email to the committee and did put in your Google Drive. I apologize. It was probably about an hour before the meeting, maybe even less. But Neil, could you just walk the committee through that spreadsheet, if you might?
Yeah.
Do you want Alex to bring it up?
Let me see. You guys see that?
Yes. I
Okay.
have not.
So we basically divided the budget into subcategories. So there's a subcategories for the owner's project management. That contract is worth $1.45 million. We did a separate category for architect and engineering at $2.77 million. Commissioning services, we've plugged at $75,000. That is not a hard number. That is a placeholder. We've plugged the construction total based on the most recent cost estimate data at $28.9 million. That's the 28.6 for the construction number plus 350,000 for the add alternates. We've estimated, again, testing, utility charges, moving, miscellaneous expenses, printing expenses, legal expenses. We've estimated those at 270,000. We've carried 1.66 million for furniture, technology, phones, sort of that whole system. And then we've calculated all of the owner's contingency below the line. So there'll be discretionary spending or not on behalf of the town at 1.8 million, totaling $37 million in total for the police station budget. So that representative of that, we've expended 625,000 or just under 626,000 to date, or roughly 1.7% of the budget. In addition to that, we bonded with this project $5 million for the purpose of updating the town's exterior communications services at a total cost of $5 million. So the two together, 37 plus the 5, is the 42 million in total bonding authorization that the town provided for these two projects. Kristen, is there anything else you wanted me to go through?
No, I think if there's any committee members who have any questions, we can go through that, but that was perfect. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
Welcome.
Any questions? Anybody?
You back?
Okay. Well, who is it? Well, who we got?
No, I said, are we back?
Okay.
Spreadsheet's
yes.
off.
Neil, I do
Good.
have a question on the radio equipment budget.
Sure.
Within that, I'm not sure if it falls under the definition, but do body cams fall under the definition of external communication equipment? And is that something that can be built into that project? So please,
I'll answer for Neil because I
Thank
think
you, Kristen.
and Chief Anderson, please. The body cameras were not built into that. Chief Anderson has a plan that he's presented. If not, the override passes. So I'll let Chief answer that question.
Okay, Chief.
Sure. So we have applied for a grant for body cameras, and if that doesn't go through, we're still going to request funding for body cameras through the town.
Okay. No, I think it's important, and I didn't know if there was a way that could be built into that $5 million, or if that had to be done prior to the authorization.
Correct. It would have had to be done prior to the authorization.
Okay. All right, very
and
good.
the radio project is anticipated to come in at about $5 million.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
That's a good point, though, Patrick. I like your thinking.
Just trying to get you what you need, Chief. Anything else out there?
Mr. Pitney, I think we might have just missed the update from the CM Fontaine, if they had an update.
I believe you are correct. We did. Can we go back to item 4 then? We have a report from Fontaine Brothers. I apologize for that. I was remiss.
Not a problem, Patrick. It's Ryan. I'll be giving the update this afternoon.
Sure.
So just to piggyback off of what Neil and Jeff presented, we've been working with both CMS and Tecton in doing a budget for the 75% DD. That went really well, and they presented the findings earlier. We look forward to completing more budgets as additional design iterations are released. With that, we'll be looking to do a site early bid package with the 60% CD documents that are scheduled to come out the middle of next month. With that, we'll work with Tecton to make sure that the site package is to the point where that we're comfortable with bidding that, and if we need to include any adjustments to that to make sure that it's appropriately funding if changes occur after the bid point, that will be covered for that. And then one other point that Neil and Jeff had mentioned earlier was that we are looking at moving to get our steel decking acquired as an early package. This is due to some additional volatility in the steel market. As was previously mentioned, we have noticed some long lead times for the steel bar joists. So previously we had recommended the design team to move away from those. Since that has occurred, we've also noticed steel decking, both regular composite slab on decking and roof decking lead times extend. Because of that, we're going to look to get a purchase order for that material in the next coming weeks to make sure we don't have any delays in construction once we're going to be looking for that material come the end of this year. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Dave, or if that pretty well sums it up.
No, like Ryan said, we're keeping an eye on. We have a lot of projects that are just slightly ahead of this in the procurement process, and some that are running on a similar schedule. So we've got a good gauge right now on what's difficult to procure, what we're seeing extending lead times on. So we're just working with the team to make sure that we're advising everybody of that, and making any tweaks to the procurement schedule that we can to keep everything on schedule. But As you know, Ryan said, and Jeff and Neil, we were very happy with the estimate reconciliation process. For those that have not been involved in one of those, it's an all-day exercise where we go through the quantities of each item, unit cost for those, markup, subcontractor input. It's a very thorough and intense exercise with the cost planning, and we were able to reconcile to within, you know, somewhere in the $100,000 neighborhood on a project this size. So it was very good. The design documents are well developed for this stage. They made it, you know, very easy to do the quantity takeoffs and interpret anything that, you know, we had differences on. So pre-construction is going very well. We're also seeing a lot of subcontractor interest, you know, obviously on the trade contractor side of things, but that's only about half the contractors who will be bidding on the project. Those are the filed sub-bid trades. And, you know, the other trades like site work, concrete, steel, we're also getting a lot of interest from our subcontractor base. So we anticipate a lot of really good competitive bidding, and, you know, a lot of high quality subcontractors are very interested in the project. So all's going well from our perspective.
Thanks, Dave. Ryan, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, anything from the committee?
Let's not forget to vote May 4th.
Pat,
Yes, Mo.
if I could just ask a follow-up, I should have asked before. There's finding that the water table is consistently high across the site. Is that going to affect how deep the foundation is going to have to go, or there's no serious implications with water there for the foundation?
No, there's no implication to the foundation depth. It will primarily has an impact on our stormwater management plan.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? And Don, I believe you had a question around the design. I'm gonna give you a chance to catch up here, since this probably would have been for an earlier meeting, but since you weren't here, I think it's a good question, and I think it's an appropriate time to ask it.
You're gonna regret putting me on this committee. Anyways, I didn't notice on any of the plans, dog kennel. Is there a reason you didn't put a dog kennel in?
That's interesting, Donna. We did have one at the early stages, but I think it may have just been a forgotten fence in the back. That's a good point.
Yeah, it really wouldn't take much space. Do you have space?
I believe so, Jeff.
Yes, we have the space for that. It is on a program list. I'm not sure why it's not shown on the site plan. We'll get it on there.
And so
Thank
if you put a kennel in, do you put it so that the dog can go inside and outside, or is it just strictly inside?
Well, the one we have now is inside. It's strictly outside, but we were having discussions about having it so when you have canine, if he's gone for a couple of days, you could leave the canine here.
Or if he were to come into the building, you don't always want to just take the dog through the whole station. Or you don't want to necessarily leave the dog in the car. You could put the dog in the kennel like near the Sally Port is what I was thinking. But what do I know?
Any thoughts, Jeff?
So typically, yes, we do locate the kennels near the end of the Sally Port. Canines are often with their officer all the time, even in the building. So, you know, I don't think there's a prohibition against that, but making sure that we do have accommodations for them is in the program. So I'll make sure that that is illustrated on the site plan.
And so to be sure, you're talking about inside?
Inside, outside.
Okay. Makes me happy.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Good point. All right, so I think that takes us through to, now I have item 6, review proposed stormwater mitigation plan. It sounds like that's a work in progress at that point. Do we have anything else to cover on that?
Mr. Chairman, not at this time, no.
Okay, very good. I didn't think so, but just thought I'd cover it since it was on the agenda. Brings us to item 7, other business. Does anybody have anything out there? Mo, what'd you do to your wrist?
I fractured the bone, the bone in my arm at the bottom of my wrist.
Oh, sorry.
The
to hear that.
hazards of going to Home Depot.
You're gonna have to get it delivered next.
Mo, you need to leave construction to the experts.
And actually, Neil, I need to open my eyes and see the ice on the ground.
All right. Doesn't sound like there's any other business out there. Mo, take care of that wrist. And so, date for the next meeting. Do we anticipate one being ready for the May 18th meeting, Jeff, for the Conservation Committee? And do we need to meet before then?
Yes, I think we need to schedule a meeting before then. And I don't know if Matt left me a date that he was looking at. Right.
17th is a Monday, and the 10th is a Monday.
May 17th is a Monday, yes. Now, will we need to vote to approve that plan before it goes before the Conservation Commission? Kristen, maybe you can, I'm not sure who can answer that.
Well, we didn't necessarily vote to approve the package that was originally go to the Conservation Commission. We reviewed it and we provided comment, but I don't recall, and Alex can correct me if the minutes reflected, but I don't recall us saying, yes, this package can be submitted to the Concom. I think just us seeing it in advance, but I don't know how the Concom would really act if they receive the plan the morning of their meeting. They don't have any time to review that. So,
right.
First of all, I guess I'd like some more information from Fuss and O'Neill when they think they'd be ready to share the plan with us. Perhaps we should hold the 10th and the 17th, but I don't want to spring the plan on the Concom the morning of the 18th, and then they have nothing to really discuss because they need to have it reviewed.
I agree. And I'd like to have some time to digest it as well before that meeting.
I will get confirmation from Fuss and O'Neill on the availability of those plans for the 10th.
So Alex, can we hold the 10th, and should we try and hold another day a little bit later in the week if they need a few more days? Maybe the 12th or 13th. I know it's not our normal meeting night, but
yeah, the Board of Selectmen meets the 11th, so I just stay away from Tuesday the 11th.
And you don't have the Finance Committee on the 13th. I assume nothing going on that night?
No, the Finance Committee will meet the 20th.
Would everybody be okay on the 13th if we needed to meet that night to give Fuss and O'Neill time to put their plan together?
Patrick, I'm going to be at a Red Sox game the 13th.
Well, you just have to mobile in on your phone.
Mobile in from the...
Pat?
Yep.
We're going to be meeting at like 4:30, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I have in my calendar, pre-town meeting is at 7. If we have that changed.
We changed to the 20th, so we might just not have gotten your calendar up to date yet, but pre-town meeting in the Finance Committee is the May 20th, with town meeting being the 22nd.
Okay, thank you.
So let's plan on the 10th, but let's hold the 13th just in case. And Chief, we'll just have to forge ahead while you're enjoying the game.
Or does anybody have an issue with the 12th if they have it ready for the 12th?
12th is okay with me.
I'd have a preference for the 12th over the 13th, but Kevin can certainly fill in my absence.
So let's do order of preference 10th, 12th, 13th.
Okay, sounds good.
Unless anybody has any major objections to that.
All right, very good. So we've got hopefully the 10th, and if not, the 12th or 13th. Very good. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, may I just ask one
Yes.
question?
Sure.
Kristen, do we require a vote of the committee on that lead ad service?
Well, we don't have it on the agenda right now.
Okay.
Would it be available to vote on it if we had the meeting on the 10th?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so Alex, if you could put an agenda item on the 10th or if whatever date we meet that week to review and approve the addition of the lead services through Tecton, and I can help you with the language. And then Jeff,
Thanks,
that will give the
Kristen.
committee just, a few weeks to think about it on their own or ask questions if they have any further questions.
That's
Right.
great. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Item 9, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second to adjourn. Mo?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Chief?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Justine?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Donna?
Aye.
Myself? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Productive meeting.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.